Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. Good to see you all. Tonight, we're continuing with our study of the Bhakti Shastri course. And tonight we're continuing with the Nectar of Devotion. And we are continuing from chapter 7 tonight. Chapter 7 is called Evidence Regarding Devotional Principles. So you may remember last week in chapter 6, what was the subject matter of chapter 6? we heard about the 64 different ways that you can serve Krishna. And tonight, those 64 ways begin to become unpacked. So we're going to go into detail about the different items of bhakti. So if you have any questions or any comments as we go, then please ask. So item number 1 is accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. So in Sanskrit, we call this Guru Pad Ashraya. Guru, the spiritual master. Pad means the feet, and Ashraya means taking shelter. Yeah. So taking shelter of the lotus feet of a spiritual master. This is where spiritual life begins. Because if we don't have spiritual masters, when we chant the prayers of obeisances, we chant Vandeham, Sri Guru, Sri Yuta Padakamalam, Sri Gurun, Vaishnavams Cha. So we say Gurun. Gurun. Gurun means plural. There's more than one spiritual master. We have a primary guru that is called Diksha. That's principle. But Shiksha gurus can be many. So our tradition is that we have more than one guru. That is called Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. We offer obeisances to many gurus. So here it is saying taking shelter of the lotus feet of the guru. Or we could say gurus, depending on what we're meditating upon. So this is where spiritual life begins. So it is said that after listing the 64 main items of sadhana bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami illustrates and substantiates each with systematic scriptural evidence. This chapter describes the first 18 items of devotional service. So the first one is Guru Padashraya. Srila Rupa Goswami lists the most crucial item first. So why is this the most crucial item? Because how do you learn to serve Krishna unless you have gurus, people to teach you? It's like anything. You learn things, at least I learn things easiest when someone shows me how to do it. If someone explains something, you can understand it to an extent. If someone shows you how to do it, they show you, do it like this, and they do it, and you observe it, it's easier to understand. At least for me, it's easy to understand. But when someone says you do it, and they talk you through it, for me at least, that's the best way to make something stick. So that is the duty of the guru, right? The guru's duty is to either explain it to us, or to show us how to do it, or to observe us doing it and then correct us as we go. Right? So that is the guru's role in our spiritual life. So this is called Guru Pad Ashraya. Spiritual life begins when you take shelter of the lotus feet of a guru. Because we need to learn how to serve Krishna. Otherwise, we don't know. We explained this last week. We don't know how to serve Krishna. We don't know what Krishna likes. what he does not like, what his favorite foods are, all these things, we don't know. So all these things we're educated in. We're told this is what Krishna likes, and this is explained to us. And then even more importantly, in one sense, the best way to understand, or the best way to learn how to serve Krishna is by observing the mood of the spiritual master. What is the mood in serving Krishna? Just like if you watch the videos of Prabhupada, like at my ashram, I have all the footage of Prabhupada on disc. So you can watch it all. It's available on the internet as well. So you can watch everything. So I've watched a lot of it, and you understand a great deal by hearing from Prabhupada. But when you observe him and you see how he does things and what his mood is while he does the service, that has the deepest impact on our consciousness. And I see Prabhupada, like there's a video of Srila Prabhupada installing Radha Parashishwara, the deities who are in Paris in France. So Prabhupada installed them. And I was very fortunate in 1996, I was traveling there and I got to do arti for them. I got to worship. Prabhupada installed them. So if you see in the video of the installation, you see Prabhupada's mood while installing the deities. And you very much pick up what the mood of deity worship is about. Because when you see an advanced devotee, also when I go to Mayapur, I used to always observe Jananivas Prabhu and Pankajagri Prabhu. You would observe their mood while worshipping the deity, and then you understand how we should worship Krishna. So this is what we learn. That's why we need spiritual masters, because you learn from them how to serve Krishna, and then you also learn what is the mood that we should imbibe when serving Krishna. So that's why it's necessary. Otherwise, very hard to advance in spiritual life if you don't have gurus. Following this one principle opens the doors to the other 63 items of sadhana, because the spiritual master will instruct us about the execution and significance of them all. So that's a very powerful statement, that this is the most important item of bhakti, in the sense that you can't learn how to perform the other items of bhakti if you don't have this one first. That's why it's first. Okay? Adol in the Sanskrit says adol. Adol means adi. Adi means in the beginning. The beginning. So the beginning, adol, Guru Padashraya, means from the beginning you must have spiritual masters. That's how you learn. So you learn when you take shelter with the spiritual masters. The importance of this item becomes clearer by considering the evidence Srila Rupa Goswami quotes to substantiate it. Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jigyasu shreya uttamam shabde pare chanishnatam brahman yupa samashrayam. Prabhupada speaks this verse in Bhagavatam 11.3, 21, to King Nemi, immediately after he described the futility of earthly and heavenly sense gratification. So according to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary on this verse, only a person who has understood the futility of material sense gratification can approach a bona fide spiritual master. So this is true. When do we take to Krishna consciousness? When do we begin our journey? When we're frustrated with the material world. If everything is working for us in the material world, generally we will not approach Krishna or his representatives. At least for myself, I can say that's true. I only took to this because nothing else was working. When nothing else works, then you say, okay, let me try this. which is not the most advanced way to approach Krishna. A better way to approach Krishna is just hearing about it and understanding, yes, this is what I should do, and then surrendering to Krishna. But I wasn't like that. I tried other things and it didn't work. So then it was Krishna checkmated me. I thought I got no other option. Now let's go to the temple. And then I didn't leave, because once I got there, I understood, okay, this is what we should do with our life. So we have to become materially bereft to surrender. Thus, the first principle of devotional service is to clearly understand that the material world is a false shelter, to urgently feel the necessity of spiritual life, and to therefore seek the guidance, the genuine shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. As it says here, we have to understand the material world is a false shelter. Deha pacha kalatradishu atma sanyesh wasat swapi. Bhagavatam says, asat swapi means fallible soldiers. Prabhupada translates it like that. Fallible soldiers. So what's the duty of the soldier? To protect us. You know, if there's some problem, the soldiers will protect us. But asat swapi means they are fallible. They can't protect you. Just like Ajamil, he called out to his son, Narayana. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't protect him from death. So we are not protected by Deha, our body, Apacha, our offspring, Kalatra, your spouse, Adishu, your paraphernalia. All these things don't protect you. The only thing that protects you is the spiritual master and connection. One of my god sisters passed away a number of years ago, and she was wearing the kavach of my spiritual master, like those threads you see in Mayapur. Anyway, so I've got some. Actually, remind me, I'll give you one from Mayapur. You can wear it. Purifies. Offer to the deities. And so you can wear this, and it was my guru's personal one, which he'd often wear. And as she was passing away, she was holding it tightly. It was her security, because what else is going to protect you at the time of death? Nothing else works. You have to take shelter of the spiritual master. And if we take shelter of the spiritual master, we will be delivered from the cycle of birth and death. So this is the first item of bhakti. The Guru Pad Ashraya. You must take shelter of the spiritual master. Okay, so then second is accepting initiation from the spiritual master and receiving instruction from him, Sri Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam. So Diksha and Shiksha, you must accept from the Guru. Initiation and instruction from the Guru. Rupa Goswami quotes, this is on page 60, Prabhupada. My dear king, a disciple has to accept the spiritual master not only as a spiritual master, but also as the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Super Soul. So he is the external manifestation of the Super Soul. He's Krishna's representative. And almost mystically, when you associate with these personalities, these gurus, it's almost as if they're getting inspiration from the Super Soul, because sometimes it's like they're reading your mind, or you have a question in your mind and they answer it. I've experienced this a number of occasions. You're with advanced devotees and you have a question and they answer the question, because it's like they have or you may have some situation going on in your life which you're meditating upon and you need guidance on. And it's like the spiritual master, it's almost like he preempts the discussion or begins to answer the question or sees the problem sometimes even before you articulate it. So he is the external representative of the supersoul. He is God's representative outside. So he gives us instruction based upon that. So this is the necessity that we take shelter, we take initiation, and we take instruction from the Guru. In other words, after rejecting material life, is on page 60. At the end, it's on page 60. In other words, after rejecting material life and taking shelter of a spiritual master, one must accept him with full faith. Diksha is the spiritual master's formal acceptance of the disciple's commitment and faith. Without this commitment, a disciple cannot possess the unyielding faith required to properly assimilate his guru's spiritual instructions. Srila Prabhupada explains, one should learn Srimad Bhagavatam seriously and with all respect and veneration from the spiritual master, or for the spiritual master. So, the most important service you can render to the Guru is to hear the Bhagavatam from him. That's considered to be the primary service. That's shiksha. Shiksha means instruction, receiving instruction. I was in Melbourne years ago, and I was a young devotee, only been a devotee for 1 or 2 years. And my Guru was there, and my godbrother, who was a little bit senior to me, he said, we have to make Gurudev's breakfast while he's giving class. So I said, okay, I thought that was the right thing to do. So we made breakfast. So I made the orange juice and cut the fruit and did different things. And they made breakfast. 3 of us, three disciples. So after class, our Guru walks into the dining room and he said, where were you? He's particularly focusing on this senior godbrother because I was more junior. He said, where were you? He's talking to all of us. And he said, oh, we're making your breakfast. And he said, I come here once a year, travel all over the world just to, and you can't even be there for my class. You've missed my class. You know, breakfast, you could have made that before or after, or, you know. So he really made the point. And he really was very strong on my godbrother. I didn't get the brunt of it, but the instruction was for me also. Also, Prabhupada was in Juhu and was giving class. A number of disciples weren't there. And after class, Prabhupada said, where were you? And they said, we were cleaning your room. Prabhupada said, we can pay people to do that. We can't pay people to hear the Bhagavatam. If I speak, you are there. When Prabhupada took the disciples to India in 1970, sometimes he would speak in Hindi because some of the audience maybe couldn't understand English. And Prabhupada would make the disciples who didn't understand Hindi sit through the whole thing. And he said, the vibration will purify you. Even if you don't understand, the vibration will purify you. They had to sit through the whole thing. So the point is Diksha, Shikshadi. Diksha means initiation. Once you take shelter of the Guru, then you must get initiated. Actually, initiation is not for everyone, but at least for us, we should aspire to get initiated. And then once you're in Shikshadi, Shiksha means you must take instruction. That's the main service that you render to your gurus, receiving the instruction, hearing the instructions, and then following the instructions. No use hearing if you don't follow. How do you advance if you don't follow the instructions? Third principle, serving the spiritual master with faith and confidence. This is called Vishwambena Guru Seva. Concerning the second item, Prabhupada instructed, hearing and speaking, this is from page 60, hearing and speaking Srimad Bhagavatam is the religious process which elevates one to the platform of serving and loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Execution of this item elevates us to the third item, hearing faithfully from the spiritual master. Elevates us to the platform of offering him faithful, loving service. What's the expression of our love for someone else, particularly for the Guru? The way we express love is through seva. We do something. We serve. You know, if you love someone, you serve them. Right? You do something for them. So with the Guru, who is the principal relationship in our life, how do we express our affection? We serve. We do service. We offer our service to the spiritual masters. So this is an expression. The third item, serving the Guru. Vishrambena Guru Seva. You have to do service. When you do service, you get realization. You realize things. If you don't do service, you don't get realization. Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada says, spiritual advancement is based upon the service attitude of the devotee. Right? It's all about our service attitude. That's how we advance. Those who have a good service attitude, they make a lot of advancement, become very advanced. Those who don't have a good service attitude, they struggle in devotional life. So we have to serve with affection, then we will get realizations, then we will advance. So this is the third item, you must do service. Srila Rupa Goswami supports this with the famous verse in which Krishna states that the Acarya should be accepted as the Lord's very self. Acarya Acarya Vajani Mam. The Guru, Krishna says in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, the Guru should be accepted as himself. Right? Not that he is God, but we should see him as Krishna's representative. Just like Prabhupada came to, might have been Melbourne, but Prabhupada came to one airport. You know, quite often at the airports, the journalists would meet him, the devotees would organize. The journalists would come and all the devotees would bow down. As I said, we don't do that so much these days. But if you look at the videos in the 70s, the devotees, hundreds of devotees on the floor in the airports offering obeisances. So, you know, the journalists would say, you know, why are they doing this? Why are they all bowing? Well, it looks quite strange for Western people to see, you know, hundreds of people bowing down before. So then Prabhupada said, I am like the tax collector. He said, I am like the obeisances collector on behalf of the king. I go around, I collect all the obeisances, and I give it to Krishna. So that's the position of the Guru. Right? He accepts our service and then passes it to Krishna. So that's why we render service to the Guru, because he is accepting that and then he passes that to Krishna. Understanding the importance of service to the Supreme Lord and knowing the spiritual master to be non-different from him, the disciple must serve the Guru with strong faith. Item number 4, following the footsteps of saintly persons, sadhu, vatmanu, vatamnam. We must follow not only our own spiritual master, but all the bona fide sadhus and acharyas in the line of disciplic succession. There should be no dissension between the Guru's teachings and the teachings of the Guru Parampara, since the qualification of the bona fide Guru is that he presents the scriptures strictly according to the Guru Parampara. If he doesn't, it is not considered devotional service to adhere to his teachings. So this is the fourth item of bhakti. We must follow in the footsteps of the acharyas. We follow what they have taught. That's why on our altar, we have the pictures of the acharyas. The more recent acharyas, and then back to the 6 Goswamis, the direct followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the fourth item of bhakti is you must follow their example, their teachings. That's how we advance in Krishna consciousness. We're speaking the other day about our mentor, Bhrigupati Prabhu. So I haven't seen him for a long time. But I remember in the early 90s, he was staying in Melbourne Temple, where I was situated. And every morning, chanting japa, he would have a picture of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan in front of him. He still do that. When you saw him, he was doing that. Yeah. Yeah, so that was his metta every morning, chanting his japa. He'd have a picture of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan directly in front of him. Which is this fourth item of bhakti, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, imbibing their mood, meditating on them, right? Assimilating their mood in their bhakti, in their devotional service. That's the fourth item of bhakti. That's how we advance in Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, we establish our relationship with Srila Prabhupada, and then maybe our Diksha Guru, and then we have to cultivate relationships with all the acharyas in the past. When I was in India last Kartik, I was listening each morning to Indudumna Swami speaking on the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, each Goswami. You're giving a lecture for over an hour on each one. And I got to know that because I didn't know so much about Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. Rupa and Sanatana I'm more familiar with, and Jiva and Raghunath Das I'm more familiar with. But, it's very enlivening to study and to meditate on the examples and the teachings of these great teachers from the past. So that's one of the items of bhakti, to meditate on their example, to follow their example. Then, inquiring about eternal religious principles. Sad Dharma Prichcha. The 64 items of sadhana bhakti offer many practical ways to increase our devotional service. One way is to simply make note of the questions that arise during our study and contemplation of Shastras, and to put these questions before a senior Vaishnava. This in itself is devotional service. So, inquiring about eternal religious principles. So, this is all coming from Bhagavad Gita. Tadvidi pranipatena prasnena sevaya. Krishna says, render service to the Guru, inquire submissively, to be submissive itself. These are the beginning items of bhakti. So ultimately, these things are coming from Krishna. It's ultimately Krishna himself that these instructions are coming from. Rupa Goswami is assimilating them, and then he's giving them to us in a formulated way. Categorically, he's giving them systematically. He's explaining the philosophy for us. Then the next item, it's not mentioned. What's in the Nectar of Devotion, it's mentioned. I'm using the Ways of Devotion as my guidebook. But the next item is being prepared to give up everything material for Krishna's satisfaction. So you have to be willing to give up anything for Krishna's satisfaction. It means willing to accept things that you don't want to accept and willing to give up things that you don't want to give up. So this is how we advance in Krishna consciousness. What are examples of things that we don't want to accept? Prabhupada points out, rising early in the morning. Sometimes you don't feel like doing it. You wake up. Oh, no. I don't want to. No, you have to get up early because we know our rounds are going to be better early in the morning. Yeah, occasionally we need to sleep in to recover, from a lot of service, but generally we need to rise early. Sometimes you don't want to do it, but you have to do it. Another example, Prabhupada says, taking a cold bath. I remember we did Brajmandal Parigram in 1994, and some of the places we stayed, there was no hot water. Actually, most of the places we stayed, there was no hot water. But sometimes the water was cold. It wasn't just like temperate, it was cold water. I took, there was one kund out at Badrinath, it was called Tapa Kund. Tapa Kund, and it was famous for being a place where great sages performed tapasya. And the water was freezing. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning, it was dark. I got up early, and the water was free. I probably couldn't even do it now. But, back then when I was only 24, then, it was okay. I just, got in the water and got out, but it was freezing. So it's not like sometimes we have to accept things we don't like to accept for Krishna service. Similarly, Prabhupada says sometimes we have to give up things we don't want to give up. Right? Like in Kartik, sometimes we take vows. I won't eat any sweets. Not something we necessarily enjoy, but for Krishna's pleasure or Krishna's pleasure, then we voluntarily give up something we don't want to give up to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. So these are different examples. That's an item of bhakti. The next item is residing in a sacred place. And we mentioned this. Prabhupada says in the purport, he quotes, the waters of the Ganges are always carrying the flavor of tulsi offered to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. And as such, the waters of the Ganges are ever flowing, spreading the glories of Lord Krishna. Wherever the waters of the Ganges are flowing, all will be sanctified, both externally and internally. So wherever the Ganges flows, this is a holy place. So these are the places we go to. We go to the Ganga, we go to Mayapur, we go to Puri, we go to Vrindavan. Some devotees were telling me yesterday they went to Dwarka and Ayodhya. I've never been to those places. So we go to these holy places. Why? Because they purify our consciousness. And because the spiritual energy of those places is so powerful that just being there, it purifies our consciousness. Bhakti you perform there has thousands of times more benefit. So this is one of the items of bhakti. We have to reside in holy places. And then the next item is accepting what is necessary. Yavad atanu vatita. The reference from Naradiya Purana indicates that a devotee should accept only what is necessary for physical maintenance. Srila Prabhupada has expanded the meaning in terms of spiritual practices. It is better if one fixes up a regulative principle according to his own ability and then follows that vow without fail. That will make him advanced in spiritual life. So you have to find the things that are going to help you advance in spiritual life and focus on those things, which is what we do in our devotional service. We focus on the things that are going to give us the most advancement in spiritual life. So the Nectar of Devotion has summarize the 64 things which will help you advance the most in your Krishna consciousness. So they're the things that we focus on. They're the things that we practice because they have the most effect. We want to make advancement as quickly as possible, right, in our devotional life. We want to advance quickly. Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada's guru, he said we should all go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So we should focus in this life. Go back to Godhead in this life. Finish it up in this one lifetime. Focus on the things that are going to give you the most benefit in your spiritual advancement, in your progress. The next item is observing fasting on Ekadashi. Following Ekadashi. I think I mentioned this last week briefly. Yeah. Ekadashi is very important. And I think I mentioned that last week, that I've seen over the years devotees who don't follow Ekadashi strictly or take it seriously, I've seen that they struggle with material desires. And there's a direct correlation. Sometimes people think, oh, it's not so important to follow Ekadashi. No, it's important. Sin personified enters grains on those days, grains and beans. So you have to avoid eating those things. And then I always follow once a year. We have Nirjala Ekadashi, which is in June, usually. The one time of year where we don't eat or drink for the whole day. And then it says that if you broke any Ekadashi during the year, then by following that Ekadashi, you get the benefit of all the other Ekadashis for that year. So, we try to follow that. We try to follow things strictly. And you feel the benefit of doing these things, these items of bhakti. So what's the point of following Ekadashi? We eat less. Well, some Ekadashis we don't eat anything. That gives you more time to do devotional service. Yeah, hearing and chanting. If we're fasting and we're so weak and we don't have any energy, we can't do any service, that's not the point of fasting. The point of fasting is that we do it so then we have more time, like on Janmashtami. We don't eat all day. Why? Because then we can serve Krishna. We have more time. It takes time to eat. Prepare your meals and eat. So you save time. So that's the point of following Ekadashi or Janmashtami or any of these festivals. Just like last year in December, we have Gita Jayanti. Gita Jayanti is the day that the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, the Ekadashi, which is usually late December. And Prabhupada's disciple, Vaishasika Prabhu. He's the inspiration. He's the Minister for Book Distribution in ISKCON, which is the service which Prabhupada said was dearest to him, distributing his books. So Vaishasika Prabhu, he's inspiring so many devotees around the world now in so many different ways to progress in Krishna consciousness. But in the last few years, he has made it a more popular activity for devotees to chant the whole Bhagavad Gita on Gita Jayanti, which takes several hours. A lot of devotees are doing it. I've never done it. A lot of devotees are doing it and they're saying it's very purifying. And I heard he was being interviewed on the Wisdom of the Sages podcast, and the devotees, Kaustubha Prabhu, my god brother, and they did it. And then their realization was, they said, as soon as you finish, you just feel like doing it again. You finish chanting the whole Bhagavad Gita, you feel so purified, you just feel like, okay, let's do it again. Another few hours. So that's why we do these activities. We fast, we reduce our material activities on Ekadashi. Why? So we can increase our hearing and our chanting. Right? And there's great benefit. Ekadashi is a very powerful day. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says it's the mother of devotion. Right? If you observe Ekadashi nicely, chant extra rounds and fast, you feel so much bhakti arising. And especially those days, it'll be mentioned a little bit later on. The holy days like Janmashtami and any of the festival days, we have to observe them at the festivals because it gives rise to bhakti. It enthuses us in devotional service. In the Harinam Chintamani, it says, if you're feeling your devotional service, you're struggling, and you're not feeling so enthused in your devotional service, sometimes you feel like that. Yeah, sometimes you might feel like that. Might feel like, oh, I'm feeling a bit unenthused, Then Harinam Chintamani said, then observe Ekadashi, observe the festival days like Janmashtami and all the festivals, and then your enthusiasm will rise again. You'll feel increased enthusiasm. So we have to observe these days very nicely because they will breed devotion by observing them very nicely, very carefully with devotion. Offering respects to the banyan tree. Right? So this is one of the items of bhakti, to offer respects to the banyan tree. Datri Ashwadhadi Gauravam. The reference quoted from Skanda Purana reveals the scope of this devotional practice. See Nectar of Devotion, page 63. One must respect not only the banyan, Ashwata tree, but all living entities who serve the Lord and his devotees. Such living entities include Tulsi, Brahmanas, and cows. So this is one of the first 20 items of bhakti. We mentioned this last week. These first 20 items, which we're covering in this chapter, we're only covering 18, but 18 in the first 20. The first 20 items are called Bhakti Dwara. Bhakti Dwara means the gateway to bhakti. Right? That's how these first 20 items are the entrance to bhakti. Like you have the two gates and they open. So the first 10 are the vidhi, as we said last week, the things that we should do. And the second 10 are the nisheda, the things that we have to avoid. So we have to follow these things very carefully. So it says here, worshipping the Ashwata tree. It doesn't just mean the Ashwata tree. It also means any holy tree. There are many holy trees. But it also mentions especially Tulsi. Tulsi is the most sacred of all the trees. She's called Pushpasara. Pushpasara means, Pushpa means flower, Sara means the essence. So like the essence of all the flowers, that's Tulsi. So she's the most exalted of all of the plants who are dear to Krishna. So worshipping the holy trees, worshipping the Tulsi tree especially. Tulsi is so powerful. Worshipping the Brahmanas. Brahmanas means the Vaishnava devotees. Worshipping the devotees. Worshipping especially the devotees who are advanced in Krishna consciousness, the Brahminical devotees. We get a lot of benefit by worshipping them. And then it says the cows. This is one of the first items of bhakti. Bhakti Dwara, gateway to Krishna, gateway to bhakti, serve Krishna's cows. Krishna's cows are the most dear thing to him. I think I said, I said it in the class somewhere recently. I think I might have said it here or maybe somewhere else, but there's one beautiful pastime where Radharani finds out that Krishna is going to leave Vrindavan. And then Krishna comes to see Srimati Radharani. And Radharani is sitting very gravely, very quietly, and she's crying. And she says, "You are going." And Krishna says, I will return. I won't go for long. It'll just be a few days. The Radharani says, "No, you're going." He says, "No, I'll come." And then Krishna says, "I swear on my cows." Because his cows are the most dear thing. So if Krishna swears on his cows, then that is the most dear thing. So this item, worshipping the holy trees, Tulsi, Brahmanas, cows, they're sacred. Is one of the most powerful ways to satisfy Krishna, to please Krishna. In his commentary on this text, in the Bhakti-rasmrta-sindhu, Jiva Goswami notes that Lord Gopal is pleased when the cows are nicely cared for. He cites the Gautamiya Tantra, describing how one should gently scratch the body of the cow, offer her a handful of green grass, and reverentially circumambulate with one's right side kept toward her. So these are some of the ways that we can please the cows. Specifically, it says under the neck, on the dewlap, there. Anyway, but specifically says there. That's very pleasing to the cows, as we know. Offering them handfuls of soft green grass, nice things, feeding them very nice things, and circumambulating them with your, like we do, right side to them, so going around. We're at Govardhan Hill. A number of years ago, I was taking devotees on a parikrama in Govardhan Hill. And we got down to Punchari at the end of the hill, and then there was a beautiful cow there. And then myself and the other devotee, we started circumambulating the cow. We walked around her. And then one sadhu walks past and he said, "Very good." And he gave us his blessings. He said, "Very good. This is bhakti, to circumambulate." And then it doesn't say here, but it also says to take the dust from their hooves. But obviously, you have to be careful and practical. But we do it sometimes. But you have to be careful and practical as well. So stick to the other. Maybe that's why that's not written here. Because, some people could get hurt. So, be careful. So page 64 of the Nectar of Devotion. Giving up the company of the non-devotees, Sri Krishna Vimukha Sangha Tyaga. This is a common theme in our philosophy. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's there as well. Lord Chaitanya says, Asat Sangha Tyag e Vaishnava Acha. Vaishnavas, devotees, are known. One of the symptoms of devotees, he gives up the association of non-devotees. Why do you give up the association of non-devotees? Because they speak nonsense. Because we're devotees. Oil and water don't mix. So that's why we give up their association. We associate with them to give them Krishna consciousness. And you can only do that. And then, remember Satsvarup Maharaj wrote many years ago. He says, the Shastra says, associate with devotees, sadhu sangha. Give up the association of non-devotees, a satsanga. There's different categories. And then he said, then there's parent tattva. He said parent tattva kind of sits in the middle because they're not devotees, but you have an obligation. So you kind of like, it's a special tattva. It's like Shiva tattva. Like it's its own tattva. So then, you have to associate with them, you have to please them. But you can't associate too much because it's materialistic. But you can't completely neglect it either. And you can't just preach Krishna consciousness to them because that's not going to work either. So it's like a special situation. So, but generally, as it says, we have to give up the association of non-devotees. Rupa Goswami says, is on page 64, even if one is forced to live in a cage of iron or in the midst of a blazing fire, he should accept this position rather than live with non-devotees who are through and through against the supremacy of the Lord. Right. So these are strong statements because strong statements are given to make us understand the importance of something. That's why it's given. Very strong statement. It's making us understand. You're better off living in jail or in a blazing fire. Yeah, in other words, out in the desert than associated with non-devotees. So it's showing us the importance of being careful because their association is contaminating, and especially now because it's on our device. Within a moment, I can be associating with non-devotees. It's much more accessible than previously, so you have to be careful. And then Rupa Goswami says, one should prefer to embrace a snake, a tiger, or an alligator rather than associate with persons who are worshippers of various demigods and who are impelled by material desire. So these are strong statements. Better off picking up a snake or jumping in with an alligator or a tiger or something. That's more desirable than being with non-devotees. It's a very strong statement. It's showing us the importance of being careful about these things. And then it says, not accepting unfit disciples, constructing many temples and reading many books. Shishad, Yananu, Vandi, Twadi, Trayam. So if a person is seriously inclined to become a disciple, a sannyasi should accept him. So we shouldn't accept disciples just for the sake of trying to benefit materially. You get disciples, then you get more money because they will give you money, and So that's a bit. Otherwise, you should accept disciples if the necessity is there. His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, I think he now has 60,000 plus disciples. Prabhupada said to him, you should get 50,000 disciples. And I think now it's 60,000 plus. That's His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj just passed away a few days ago. And I met Maharaj, but I never had a lot of association with him, but I'm feeling his presence very powerful. He's purifying me. Yesterday at the Vyasa Puja of Kanamakanand Swami, we had a picture of Gopal Krishna Maharaj there too, and I'm feeling so much. And I'm understanding more his glories now that he's gone. I didn't have a close relationship with Maharaj, but he's so merciful. He's reaching out to all of us.
How many disciples he had?
No, I don't know the number, but it's thousands. Yeah, very big. He was one of the powerful devotees. So don't accept disciples unless it's for pure reasons. Constructing many temples. We should not construct the temples just for the sake of making the temples. We should only construct the temples if it's going to spread Krishna consciousness. If we're constructing the temples just so, out of prestige or out of the desire to be seen as being powerful movement or something, that's not the right motivation. We should construct temples, but it has to be only for the purpose of making more devotees, bringing more people to Krishna. And it says, reading many books. A qualified person can study the literature of our great acharyas, but his motive must be to purify his heart, not to deliver lectures intended to impress others. So that's the point with all three of these items. Don't take disciples and don't read books just so everyone can say, oh, you're so learned. No, read the books to purify ourselves and to benefit others. That should be the motivation. Now on page 66, it says, straightforwardness in ordinary dealings and equilibrium in loss and gain. Vyavahare pya karpanyam and shokshad yava shavatita. We should be straightforward in ordinary dealings. We were mentioning this last week. That we should be straightforward. We shouldn't be duplicit in the purport. And also, we should be equal in loss and gain. Right? Because sometimes in the material world, we will lose things and sometimes we will gain things. And, it's just in Melbourne, spending time with the devotees. And my realization is there is something astrological going on at the moment because everyone's got problems in their life, right? So, a good friend of mine doesn't have a job. Another good friend, actually the devotees I stay with every week when I go, suddenly probably going to have to move back to India on a permanent basis. So many devotees problems. I had this back thing. So many devotees got back problems at the moment. So it's like there must be something astrological because I just see so many devotees going through difficulties and challenges. So as it says here, be equal in loss and gain. We have to learn. That's an item of bhakti. You have to be equal. Because sometimes good things happen, sometimes bad things happen. And I was explaining to some of the devotees last night, this is a test because do you remember Krishna when all the negative things happen? It's easy to remember Krishna when everything's good. But when the challenging things happen, do we still remember Krishna? So these are tests. We have to see this is an item of bhakti. In loss and in gain, we have to stay fixed in our devotional service. Then it says, one should not offer neglect or fail to offer due respect to the demigods. This is actually an offense in devotional service, to disrespect the demigods. And I've heard over the years, devotees say, oh, Lord Brahma did this and Lord Indra did that. But we did everything ourselves as well, and we're not as advanced as them. We're not Lord Brahma, we're not Lord Indra. So we have to be careful not to criticize the demigods or not offer them respect. When you go to the Holy Dharma, you have to offer respect to the demigods as well, Lord Shiva and the others. And then the final item of bhakti in this chapter is not giving pain to any living entity. It is called jiva or jana aparad. When you give pain to ordinary living entities. Sometimes we think we'll respect the devotees, but not the non-devotees. But you have to respect the non-devotees as well, because they are also Krishna's servants. They've just forgotten that they're Krishna's servants. Or you have to respect the other living entities, the plants, the insects, the animals, everything. Everything needs respect in this material world. So next week, we will begin chapter 8. We'll study chapter 8. Offenses to be avoided. It's a very interesting chapter. So we'll discuss that next week. And then the week after is Nrsimha Chaturdashi. So we won't have a class on that night because we'll follow the teachings of the Nectar of Devotion and we will honor Lord Nrsimhadev. Jai, any questions, any comments? Anyone?
Lovely, thanks.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Hare Krishna, we'll see you next week.
Keshava, before you go,
Any more?
okay.
Good week.